Hello guys, what is happening? Welcome to this live stream. I always find that rock music so off-putting. So in today's live stream, we are discussing the declines in the housing market across the Greater Toronto area. Not only that, we're going to go into an article about the Bank of Canada, how a soft landing isn't coming and there's a recession, but really a depression coming. And also how sellers are adjusting to the new norm of this market, not very well. And also, if we have time, I'm going to go through the implications of markets like Toronto, Vancouver, California, going down the plug hole, because you may just think about those markets locally, but they actually have wider implications for other markets which have a lagging effect. So it's very important to go through that. So before we get started, please hit that like button. It greatly helps. Now, I just want to mention before I forget, I've got a short-term memory. I'm not afraid to admit it. I basically a slight change around in videos and live streams just because we got some friends coming over from England. So things are going to be probably a little bit all over the place. So videos are going to be on Mondays and Fridays, and live streams will be on Sundays and Wednesdays. So the next live stream will be on Sunday, next video on Monday. And the video that is coming, I'm very excited about because I've done so many videos on the housing market and everything that's gone on there. Kind of sidelined freedom and liberty, even though that's one of the most important things, more important than the housing market and everything to the like. And I've done a video on social credit scores and how the government is numbing people to the reality of social credit scores, which are happening, in fact, in Canada. So I've done a video on it in the past. It was one of the most successful videos that I've done on this channel. I think the reason behind that is because so many people are worried about this. But now there is an additional thing that I've been tracking for a while, and now I've gathered enough information on it to do a video about it, which is how the ArriveCan app is essentially now the enforcement tool of the federal government to discriminate against different people. So anyway, I'll leave it as that. Wait for that video on Monday. I think it's going to be a great video. It will probably do miserably because every time I think I've got it, I've nailed it for the audience, it just does miserably. It's just the way it goes. So anyway, guys, let's get into these mad declines in the Greater Toronto area. So I've got a tool here that I'm going to use so I can strike off, and I'm just going to call off some of these declines because they are outright crashes. There is no denying when a housing market is dropped by this much on so-called low unemployment that the market is absolutely imploding. Just imagine what it's going to be like when unemployment starts going up, because unemployment is like kryptonite for the housing market. So just think about the implications of that, because really this is just purely interest rate hikes that we're seeing take effect right here. Just wait until lots of people are losing their job, which is already happening. You know, the layoff tracker, I got a long list of live streams that we got to do. One is the layoff tracker for the US and Canada, and it's just mind-boggling, all the layoffs that have been announced. Amazon laying off 100,000 workers, Hootsuite dropping 30% of staff, Tesla getting rid of 10% of workers. But everything's fine, guys. The economy is absolutely great. I mean, you have to laugh at this stuff because really, like, I just don't get how anybody, and there are people, I get comments all the time that just say the unemployment is low, you're an idiot, you're a clown. And I just laugh at these people. I find them hilarious because they just do not have a clue what's coming, and it's going to hit them like a bus. You know, I was watching a video, Ray Dalio, Tony Robbins today, and I know I'm rambling a bit here, so I'll keep it short. But it was a fascinating video. It was about the changing world order. You know, I love both of those guys. I think they are great. Ray Dalio just has a very, very interesting perspective on the fourth turning, which I think he explains it very, very well. And then Tony is just a master at motivation and the like, so much. But yeah, check out that video. But Ray Dalio was saying in that video that if you're not worried, then you're never going to prepare for what's coming. So being worried is actually a good thing. You know, a lot of people equate being worried to a bad thing, but the reality is worry, fear will drive us to seek out alternatives. And, you know, the thing is, for me, long term, like, I see no future in a place like Canada, the US, Europe. You know, I do believe civil war will come at some point. I think it will probably erupt in the US first and then ripple out into all of the Western world. And, you know, I don't want to be in one of these countries. And really, you have to go to a place where you could see the middle class growing a lot in that country, a lot of where they're actually producing more and more things. You know, whereas here, everything has just been downhill since 2008, practically in the US, Canada, the UK, everywhere, you know. So anyways, that's for another video. I've completely gone off topic for the first 7 minutes. So I absolutely apologize for that. So anyway, we got somebody saying here, where is that comment? Price correction on my street, Brampton, Ontario, minus $250,000. Wow, that is a heck of a price correction. And as we can see on this map, so let's start from the west and go east. So Milton, minus 25.8%. Remember, these aren't adjusted for inflation, these prices. Milton, minus 25.8%. Burlington, minus 20%. Oakville, minus 26.8%. Halton Hills, minus 24.3%. Caledon, minus 25.9%. Brampton, minus 26.3%. Mississauga, minus 20.1%. City of Toronto, down minus 23.6%. Vaughan, down 24.4%. Richmond Hill, minus 12.5%. Markham, minus 23.4%. Here we get into the names now that I can't pronounce, so watch me butcher all these. Stouffville, minus 29.7%. King, minus 28.3%. Bradford, minus 26.6%. You get the picture. You know, some of the biggest decliners were a place I can't even pronounce, Scugog. Just Scugog anyway. Minus 36.3%. That is nuts. That is absolutely insane. Brock is down minus 39.3%. That is just crazy. You're talking about a 45% correction in real terms. And people might be thinking, this is a great time to buy. Fantastic time, I'm buying the dip. But just wait until people start losing their jobs, which is already happening. But wait for that to compound. Because, I mean, if it's down this much already, my gosh, people do not realize what is going to hit them. And really, this is the collapse of a super bubble. This is going to be one of the biggest real estate collapses in history. You know, New Zealand, Canada, Australia as well. Just gigantic housing bubbles, way larger than the United States housing bubble. I think the last time I read, it was something like 2 or 3 times the size of the US housing bubble, the one here in Canada. And the US has a bubble, but this is just a super bubble. So whereas in the US, you know, prices could correct 30-40% nationally, you could see prices go 50, 60, 70% in Canada, which is just unheard of. People just cannot understand that. And, you know, when you really look into the fourth turning and everything, and you realize that basically eventually what wins out is a redistribution of wealth, and that'll mean housing prices will have to come down and everything like that. This all goes into the fourth turning and what you can expect to happen. So it is just mind-boggling, some of these declines. And literally, guys, it took years for the US market to decline this amount. This is happening in a breakneck pace, and I do definitely believe that there will be some sort of bull trap. I just think it's probable. It's happened in pretty much every bubble bursting where, it's not going to go up like 20% or something like that, but it might go up 5%, and the real estate will just run wild with that story as soon as that happens. And that may happen just because I already put on Twitter what I thought of this. I said, like, they'll probably frame this narrative around the fact that the rental market is tight. So they'll say the rental market is tight and it's pushing buyers into the market, when actual fact it's just some point that basically a lot of people thought, now's a good time to buy, or it's just come within my price range, or whatever it is. It'll just happen. A lot of these things are unexplainable, and they're not logical when they do happen. I mean, look at the stock market right now. You've got earnings coming down massively. You've got a massive bear market rally in the stock market that's going to be attracting loads of people in, suckering loads of people in, which is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they want. Tons of people to get suckered in there. And, meanwhile, people like me are sat, and today I made a shopping list of about 36 stocks. I got to go into the earnings, everything like that. And I did actually start a Patreon because people have asked me to do it. I've linked it in the description. And what I'm going to be doing on that Patreon is sharing exactly what I'm buying, when, my sort of analysis on different things. And I don't expect people to follow that. And in fact, I don't want people to follow that, but people have asked me to do that type thing. So I'm going to try and do that. And also, I want to kind of gather a smaller community together of people that are willing to maybe group in together and invest, be it somewhere, and we could do some sort of thing, I don't know, at this stage, very, very early stages. But I just want to grab people together who are like-minded, and that's why I've set up the Patreon. But anyway, people asked me for that. I didn't want to do it, and I've been hesitant to do it because I feel like it's like a begging thing, but really I don't see it like that. I'm going to provide extra services over there as well. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. Somebody just said, just a cool thought. Thank you so much for the super chat, first of all. Oh, God, I'm so bad with names, guys. I'm not even going to try, and I'll just murder that. Just a cool 400k loss. Nothing to see here. Real estate rock solid, brother. Buy now or be priced out forever. Only going down 2,500 per day. Here's 10 Trudeau loser units. Thanks, bro. Great comment there, and fantastic. Thanks for the $10 super chat as well. Thanks for supporting the channel. That is funny, actually. That comment is interesting because this is something we heard so much in 2021. I can't say that name is saying here, but basically, you're going to be priced out forever. We saw that new paradigm moment. And I really think that new paradigm moment is sort of when everything just falls apart. When everybody just starts saying the market's just going to go up forever. That is literally that new paradigm moment. The market's just going to go forever. Just buy, just buy, just buy. And everybody, the FOMO just goes crazy. It starts swirling around. Fundamentals just go out the window. What can we do to get this house? Let's commit mortgage fraud. Whatever. We'll just do it. We'll get a guarantor, our parents on it. And all this sort of stuff that has happened will bleed out as the bubble is crushed and put into a grinder. So all this will be exposed and it will come to light. And there will be a financial crisis because the amount of money that is going to be lost. And on Sunday's live stream, I got a fantastic article that Eric shared with me on Twitter. Thank you, Eric. Great article, because he put on Twitter to me, he said just the start, and he couldn't have been more right about that, because, you know, $50 million loss, who's absorbing that loss? It's going to be a bank. It's going to be a bank. And you're going to see that more and more when it comes to these banks and financial institutions, and they haven't been allocating for loan loss provisions. They've been rolling their loan loss provisions into their earnings to make it look like their earnings are better than they actually are. That is how stupid these banks are. There is no lengths they will not go to bump their bonuses and to do what they got to do. And they are banksters, as George Gammon says it. They are banksters. And you can also put a W in front of that and take away the S, and you'll get something else. Anyway, so that's what they really are. So these declines, absolutely massive. So obviously, we don't need to spend too much more time on that. So I'm going to bring in how now sellers are reacting to this. And I saw Justice Queen on Twitter. You know, there is some great people on Twitter. She shared this, and I thought this was fantastic. So let's get this up. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so sellers expecting yesterday's prices, Canadians cope with the correcting housing market. What did I say? I literally put a video out about this 2 weeks ago titled Sellers Chasing the Housing Market Down. And that is exactly what this article is saying. But it's 2 weeks late. They're late to the game. Following after CTV News here. That's depressing. No, following before CTV News. Just depressing that they're writing stuff like this. But here we go. So sellers expecting yesterday's prices, Canadians cope with a correcting housing market. What they saying here? Less than a year after purchasing their 4-bedroom townhouse in Surrey, BC for $870,000, Anish, I can't even, God, what's with the names today? We're just getting killed on the names today. I just can't get any of them right. And his wife decided to sell their home in early May. They were both looking forward to their first open house. Bahan Dari said, making bets on how many showings the home would get. They later discovered only one. I shouldn't laugh at this, but only one person. Well, I should, because they were obviously getting greedy, and they were getting a bit stubborn and arrogant about this because, well, arrogant really, because I mean, if they're saying, oh, we're making bets on how many showings the house is going to get, and then they get one person come, to me, I call that karma. I don't call that the decline in housing market. And karma is a snitch for I have to speak cryptically for people who are greedy. Trust me. I've been there firsthand. I know. So anyways, they later discovered one person came to view the property. They said it was an eye-opener, and they told them that in a CTO. Yeah, whatever. My realtor didn't expect that. Nobody expected that. Well, surely the real estate agent should have expected that. He probably just didn't tell you to expect that because he's too scared to tell you the truth because he's too worried about losing your business, especially if he's starved for food, which is, you know, going to be a lot of these people in unfortunately, they're just going to get more and more. The lies are just going to become more and more by real estate agents because they're just going to do whatever it takes to get somebody. And really, I think this is kind of the broken way of doing it. Really, in actual fact, but it's the reality of how people work, unfortunately. If you are that brutal sales guy who's like, no. If you want to sell your house, this is the price that you need to sell it for. If you don't want to sell your house, we'll go sell it for the price that you want. but the likelihood is you're not going to sell it. So do you need to sell it? Those are the tough conversations that real estate agents need to be having with potential sellers. However, are they having those conversations? No, they're not, because people are too nicey nice and they want to dance around and prance around everybody instead of actually telling it how it is, telling it like it is. This is one thing that really, Canadians are very, very nice people, very, very nice people, but they rarely tell you what they actually think. They kind of take that back. So, and I find that annoying in a lot of situations. And I especially found it annoying. Like, that's definitely a thing here in Calgary. Like, it's more like people are just kind of, on the whole, very, very nice, very, very pleasant in passing. However, it's impossible to read people and tell what they're actually thinking, because most of the time they won't actually tell you to your face because they're too scared. And that kind of makes that makes for tons of awkward situations. I wish people would just be more bluntly honest with each other. But no, and when times are tough, you just don't need all this prancing and dancing around. You need to separate the weak from the strong by saying, if I was in that industry, I would be saying, hey, do you want to sell the house or not? Because if you have no motivation to sell the house, you're wasting my time, and I'm going to go and find somebody that does. Instead of wasting your time with somebody mollycoddling them to basically say, oh yeah, we're going to sell this house for what you want, but it's not going to sell, and you're going to take up tons of my time, and it's going to be a complete nightmare. So anyway, it's just ran over on that. But so Bahandari and his wife are planning to move from British Columbia to Ontario. Now, the nuance here is interesting. To be closer to his employer's office in Mississauga. So the question I'm sort of asking is, did this guy move to British Columbia because he was remote working? Because that's what it seems like with how this is written, but they don't really tell you that up front. But the process of selling their current home and purchasing a new one has been a struggle, the 36-year-old said. After 30 days on the market, the 167 square meter home, what the heck? Like, nobody talks about home sizes in square meters in Canada. What on earth is going on here? Like, is this the new now? The government is saying, no, everything in metric, guys, from now on. Like, nobody talks about it in square meters. That's European. That's how they do it in other places, but that's not how they do it in Canada and America. So I don't even know what that is in square feet, because I don't even work to those values. So somebody put in the chat 167 square meters to square feet. What is that, please? So David, you should know, because you're from New Zealand. They list in square meters, I think, don't they? So yeah, it's the metric system, bro. We don't use imperial. This is Canada. It's so broken, though. I once went to get weighed for some skis, and they said, what's your weight? And I said, I'm 72 kilograms. And they looked at me and I was like, what? And they're like, oh, do you know what that is in pounds? And I'm like, nope. So I just quickly did it on my phone and found out. But, people don't even know metric here. It's kind of funny. But anyway, we're getting really off topic on tonight's stream. Fired up here for this. I've lost my place completely. Despite being listed for $50,000 below similar homes in the area. But it's an $800,000 home, so that's not much of a price cut if you're a motivated seller. I've seen sellers here in Alberta dropping the price 25% to get it shifted. In fact, I saw a foreclosure last week that sold, They dropped the price 16% on it to get it sold, just get it gone, which is interesting. But there's not tons of foreclosures right now. It's not like we're seeing a massive amount, so don't get excited about that. But anyways, at that point, the sellers were expecting yesterday's price and buyers were wanting tomorrow's price. After getting an extension from his employers to work from home until December, Bahandari now plans to relist his home in October in an effort to sell before the end of the year. So David says it's 1,800 square feet. Thank you, David, for that. So it's 1,800 square feet. Yeah, so that's not even that large, actually. That's pretty small for 800,000. Mind-boggling. You know, that house should be about 350,000, considering the incomes in that area of BC. Where was it? Yeah, it was Surrey. It was in Surrey. Yeah, that should be no more than $300,000. Just absolutely nuts. But there you go, just the insanity of what we're dealing with in today's market. So a real life example of sellers chasing the market down. And that's exactly what I've seen here, and that's why I made that video a couple of weeks ago. And you know, that leads to the market declining slower. It takes a longer period of time, but it doesn't jive with all these declines that we're seeing in Ontario that are just nuts. And I might add that those declines are from doorinsight.com, and also they're from March, I believe, or February. I think they're from March or February. But anyway, you can go back to the chart and see. Neighborhood cat lady, that is a great name. I just saw it fly by in the chat there. Okay, so let's get up this article about the bond market. So this is interesting because we've been talking about this for a long time on this channel. Bank of Canada's soft landing scenario hits rocks in the bond market. Okay, so what they're talking about. Canada's inverted yield curve is signaling the Bank of Canada may raise interest rates to a level that triggers a recession, placing the central bank in a tough spot as it aims to tame high inflation and engineer a soft landing for the economy. Yeah, totally agree with that. Like, I mean, there's no soft landing. Like, and the thing is, think about this, guys. When they dropped interest rates and did all their bond buying and quantitative easing, how long did that take to hit the markets? Think about it. It was about 9 months. It's delayed by about 9 months. So just think about where we're going to be in about 4 or 5 months at the end of this year. You're really going to see calamity. You're just going to see a disaster. You're going to see the financial system implode before then, probably. But yeah, like these things do come in a delayed fashion, and that's why you see this inverting yield curve, and it just keeps getting more inverted as they hike higher and higher and higher. The thing I am just looking at is the Bank of Canada is likely to hike just like the Fed in September or whenever the meeting's coming up here. And when they hike again, I mean, the bond market is now lagging like real far behind. Like the bond market is like signaling that we're going to enter a depression and it's going to come really quickly. Like it's almost imminent according to the bond market. So, you know, fall, it lines up excellently. You know, October is usually a terrible month seasonally for stocks. So that's when the rallies that you've seen right now are going to get tested by the bears. And, you know, do you think they're going to hold up? Do you think things are better than they were like 2 months ago? No, they're not. So, like, I do not feel any ounce of FOMO to jump into the stock market. Yeah, I guarantee you that loads of people, including hedge fund managers, have just jumped into the stock market head first again because they are worried. And that's why these bear market rallies happen. And you need to sucker retail, weak hands into the mix so that they can start selling and selling and selling. They want that volume to be there. They want the prices to be higher so they can get the best prices when they sell. The market participants, the main market participants, the primary dealers are ultimately the main manipulators of the market, and they do it fantastically, unfortunately, whether you choose to accept that or not. You can choose to profit from that, or you can get suckered in. It's entirely up to you. That isn't financial advice. That's just my 2 cents on things right now. So the yield on the 10-year government bond has fallen some 50 basis points below the 2-year yield. Yeah, I mean, that's nuts. And the 5-year, I think last time I checked, was, if memory serves me, about 50 basis points less than the 1 year, which is just nuts. And I haven't even looked into the 1 month and the 3 month, seen where they're at. But really, when they invert over the 10-year, there's a collapse that's essentially on your doorstep. And really, as the inversion gets further and further down the yield curve, it basically means that we're getting closer and closer to financial implosion. And the interesting thing that I want to highlight from this article is that is the biggest inversion of Canada's yield curve in Reuters data going back to 1994, and deeper than the US Treasury yield curve inversion. So they only have data going back to 1994, and this is the deepest inversion that they've ever seen. So I mean, we are heading into a depression. That is the reality of what's going to happen. And I'm honestly on the fence 50-50 on whether it's going to be deflationary, inflationary. Is really hard to tell, and it really depends on the central planners and how they respond to this sort of crisis. So, but I don't know. I'm on the fence at this point. But anyway, it's incredibly interesting. Recession, more like depression. We're in the recession now. It's just people don't know about it. But we're going into a depression. That's where I believe this country is heading. And really, so much of the economy is just dependent on asset bubbles, just like to an insane amount, like 4 or 5 times the amount that the US was during the height of the GFC. And just look at how many people lost their jobs during that. I mean, just think about it. It is nuts. And some of these people who bought in these new communities, they're going to be the ones that are really like hating it, because even if you're able to keep your house, like a lot of these developers are going to go bankrupt. It's just inevitable. And a lot of these developments are going to be halted. They're just never going to be completed. Like there's one in Calgary right now. They're saying it's going to be completed in 6 years. Who wants to live on a building site for 6 years? I mean, that is just it's never going to probably be completed. It'll be like some of those abandoned subdivisions in the US, which people have been to. There's videos all over. So anyway, now I want to quickly show you what we're running at. 30 minutes. I think we got time to do this quickly. So I'm going to show you basically how the contagion of all these markets declining affects one another, so you can sort of visually see it. I don't know how this is going to, so I'm using an illustrator here, so I don't know how well this is going to come up. So basically what you can see here on here is you've got your Toronto seller right here. So your Toronto seller is selling their home and they're becoming a Halifax buyer. That's why you've got this line along the bottom here. But here's the thing, and you can be the Toronto seller, you can be the Vancouver seller, and you can also be the California seller. So it doesn't really matter, and these buy places can change as well. Like instead of Mexico, it could be Texas, or it could be Phoenix, and instead of Calgary, it could be Edmonton or somewhere else. But the reality is, what you've seen is, yeah, a lot of people have probably moved from Toronto to Calgary, let's say, or from Toronto to Halifax, sorry. So we know that's been the case. So what then happens when Toronto seller can't sell his house anymore? What happens? Well, it's obvious. Nobody is there for the Halifax seller now. So the Halifax seller has to rely on the local housing market fundamentals, such as wage and incomes. So, and you could make an argument, I will accept this, they'll flip it to the rental market. But if they bought it recently, that's going to be practically impossible. And even so, doing that requires them to get out a second line of financing in some sorts. And do you honestly think the banks are looking to do that type of thing right now with the market that we've got going on? Be it how many sales are falling through right now. I mean, we got so many sales falling through that the real estate statistics only tell part of the story. Because today's sales are 3 weeks later's cancellations, or months later. I mean, I saw this across the street, and I saw it multiple times within the neighborhood, but across the street was a prime example. Like let's say across the street, the people were moving from Vancouver. So that house sold in March, just after the peak, just around the peak. And it sold for like 1.2 million. They listed it at 900,000 to start a bidding war. Sold for 1.2 million. Beautiful, like 4,000 square foot house. But it sells, and then which makes like Vancouver housing price like a townhouse for 800,000. I mean, but just nuts. But anyways, so they sold, and then it falls through. Like, they've already moved out. So I think they moved out at the closing, which was around a month ago. And that's when the house came back on the market. The sale fell through. So obviously, whoever was buying couldn't close, it looked like. So they've had to list it for sale now. They've listed it for 1.2 million. Of course, nobody is buying it at that price anymore. The real estate agent was obviously smart enough to say, hey, you're not going to start a bidding war again. And then they said, okay, let's just list it for what it sold for before. And the real estate agent just said, okay, instead of saying, you're out to lunch, you need to lower your price, buddy, and realize that we're in a different market, a totally different market. Anyways, it's still on the market right now. It's been on the market for like 6 weeks. So it's not selling. But these casualties are happening everywhere. They're happening everywhere. And this is the reason why it's happening. And this is why I wanted to go across it. So you've got that Vancouver seller. They can't sell anymore. And bear in mind, there's a lag. So all these markets, which you're seeing on this side of the page. So you've got Halifax, Calgary, Mexico. All the implications of the markets collapsing in Vancouver, Toronto, and California, well, those are going to have a lagging fashion to translate into those because of the amount of time it takes for a real estate transaction to close. So you're going to see this translate into the markets, and it's going to take time, but it's going to come. And that's why there's so many sales that are falling through in the real estate statistics have become like ridiculous. So then you've also got the flip side to this, that your California seller and your Vancouver seller and your Toronto seller, for instance, that line was way off, but whatever. But all those guys, what about the motivated ones? Because out of that bunch, there's going to be motivated ones, and they're going to drag the prices down even more because they're going to try and get their house sold. So they're going to reduce the price to get to a point that it sells, and that price might be really low, which drags prices down even further. And it's just going to happen. It hits the biggest markets first. And really, I mean, it's just ridiculous. All these places, Mexico, like I'm not talking about all of Mexico, obviously. I'm talking about your typical places where Californians end up: Cabo, Puerto Vallarta, Riviera Maya. Those are all in massive bubbles. They've doubled in price. And then you've got, you know, Calgary. Calgary home prices went up quite a bit. When I actually checked the other day, from the low in 2020 till the high that was in March of 2022, it actually went up 40%. So that's actually a pretty big number. It's not a sustainable amount of growth. So that was a massive amount of growth. And then you had Halifax prices doubled. You've had Calgary housing prices go up. These prices have doubled. Basically, you can just see how the contagion works its way across. It goes in to everything. So the fact is, it's all going to be affected. You're going to see these markets all be effective. It's just a question of when. Nothing is going to be spared. You know, Calgary housing market's going down. Mexico housing market in these places, as we've discussed in other videos, going down. The US housing market is starting to crumble. You got the Halifax housing market. I haven't checked up on that actually recently, so I'll have to check. If you're in the Halifax market, let us know in the comments. I know there's a few of you on this channel, so let us know. So anyway, very interesting stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, guys. I'll be back on Sunday. I don't know what time. Let me know what time. I don't know. 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, maybe. Let's go with that. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please hit that like button. It will greatly help just get the video out there. You guys are awesome. You're the best. Thank you for participating in this live stream as usual. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you Sunday. Take care of yourselves, guys. And thanks so much to the guy for the super chat for supporting the channel. Thank you very much. See you in the next one, guys. Take care of yourselves. Peace.